So good morning, everyone. Actually, this was a postponed session. We canceled the Thursday session, being it so close to the workshop, and most of you had very little time to read the preparatory papers for us to start the negotiation in this session. Therefore, I volunteered to postpone it to today so that we are expecting you to deal with authentic sources, your own write-up, and the strategies and bit of scaffolding tasks I have created here in the class, so that you'll be analyzing things, making decisions, and of course, internalizing certain features from the studying papers as well as attributing them in your own methods description. So, starting from general background of research writing, we actually are navigating from introduction to literature review by now. And here we are starting today from M, the methods, process, precision, and justification. So now when you start the introduction, you know that it is the point where you start to grab your reader's attention, distinguish him, and pitch him or her from a wide, versatile repository of resources to your own work, which you say you are done with this particular research for this purpose, and you're going to pitch that or rather project that to your reader. And then and there, we found certain strategies that were working. And then we came to, from introduction to the literature review. In the literature review, what happens is, quite simply, you are showing your reader relevant, most up to date, and much of the affiliated work done on the field that you are investigating presently, but where the others are doing, what the others are doing, and where the void exists for you to fill the research gap. So that is what you are doing. So in that particular episode, we understood that you have to keep your voice, your researcher's voice, and of course the voice of the previous researchers, as well as your organizing voice of previous research in the line of research that you're going to bring into the surface with the present research. So that is part of the literature review section where you actually happen to surface your write-up, your research from among the other researchers done in your field. When we arrive at methods, one thing you have to keep in mind is that actually methods is arising from your literature review true, arising from your study of the existing literature, that's very true, but still the very prose which we are going to make, which is your story, methods actually is a place where you begin to show up how you do this thing. So in your research write-up, introduction and literature review typically are based on the other's voices, dominantly the other researchers' voices. But now, in your own prose of research writing, you are going to firstly introduce them what you did in your research. Quite simply, your simple method. So keep in mind that this is a place where you grab your reader's attention from what is in and around the literature to what actually you are doing, so that your voice surfaces very strongly in the method section. I wish this background, or rather this, what we call the nonsense that sets up the background, is clear. And with that, we are moving to today's work. Give me your impression in any form of response. You know how to do it, so that I can move on what we are going to do today. So in the slides, it says tonight, but this day, right? Because it's planned for Thursday, that's I could not actually change and adapt them to a morning lecture. But anyway, we'll be going ahead. So I'm waiting for all of your responses. Yes, thank you. Thank you. All right. So we begin a new moment in the module. Until now, we have actually worked with research meaning, writer responsibility, synthesis, and of course the reader flow. Today, in this morning, the reader part becomes methodological. Why? Why? Because it's your method that you're presenting, right? In today's discussion, we actually are asking from ourselves by giving your reader the methodology, we ask whether another researcher of your own field can recover what was done by you. So look at the central question. You are presenting a methodology. By presenting this methodology, what you are doing is you are allowing the fellow researchers to replicate it, maybe question it, maybe improve it, or rather maybe doing the research starting from your point towards a future bigger revelation. So in this write-up, we have to ask one simple question. What is it? Another researcher, when he or she reads this paper, can he recover what you have done? That is simply the idea. And when they recover what you have done, they should be able to highly convince why it was done in this particular way by you, right? And your reader must know whether the procedure is sufficiently precise. And you should ask whether your procedures can be evaluated by another person and can it be reproduced or rather replicated elsewhere in any part of the world. So, my dear friends, this morning we are going to devise the ways that we can actually synthesize our methodology, writing off of the methods. We'll be looking at several authentic sources and we'll see how they have written their own methodology, and we'll be working on your own write-up as well, where we are going to negotiate the optimal way how to write your methodology. So the question is clear. Tonight, right, as the slide says, it's not just a diary of actions, right? It should be an auditable account on your own methodological decisions, which should be able to be grasped by your reader, and your reader should be able to replicate it, reuse it, and your reader should have a justification why it was done in this particular way you choose, right? So there are several concerns. We'll navigate through each and every of these concerns in our discussion today. Well, so if you could remember the last session, it was last Saturday, I wish, yeah, last Sunday. So a week's gap was there. We actually asked whether the reader could follow the path of your thinking, right? Today, that thinking path becomes much of a procedural path. Why? A method section typically creates another kind of responsibility. What is it? The reader is becoming able to recover what happened in your story, in your research. But at the same time, he or she, your reader, will question what conditions mattered, why a choice on a particular instrument, maybe on a particular step, why that choice was made. Your reader must know that. And in your research how quality was checked and where the procedure can or cannot be reduced. Now remember, your procedure can be reduced, reproduced. There can be instances the same procedure cannot be reproduced. Your reader must be properly informed of all these things in a very strongly written, very convincingly communicated method. You got? Now, I'm inviting you to open your worksheet, and as the first activity, you will see there, you have done a bit of reading, which I sent you, the 3 papers, not the entire paper, the methods section of those 3 papers. Yes. Now I'm inviting you to do the first task. One sentence you're writing what, yeah. Please type one of the observations from your pre-reading into chat. You can type PRJOV or a question mark. You know what P stands for, what R stands for, what J stands for, what V stands for, and what question marks stands for, right? If you can remember the paths procedure of decision making, which we done last week, and which you have done some homework reading the methods section. So let me refer back to your worksheet where it is. Yeah, in your worksheet you will see, without reopening, this is task 1, pre-reading retrieval, right? You are given about 5 minutes. Without reopening your notes, first complete 1 line. When you read the 3 method sections of the given articles, complete 1 line, maybe about process, precision, justification, validation, or reproducibility. Yeah, just bring one of those evidences to the classroom. How? Maybe as PRJV or as a question mark. So what I want you to do is type one pre-reading observation into the chat so that I know how you are dealing with your pre-reading. You do not need to read right now. From the memory of your reading, just try and answer this question. And your worksheet will guide where we are working. Now we are in the task 1. Pre-reading retrieval. I'm waiting for your chat responses. Let me allow your chat to be able to be viewed by the others. So it's allowed for everyone. Just my dear friends. Perfect. If you can't see the worksheet for session 8, all right, refresh it. Let me share it here with you on chat. Let me share with everyone the worksheet for the day. I have uploaded this early in the morning. Let me share it with you. Here comes it in your chat. Download it so that you have it. Have all of you got the worksheet now? You must have. Got it. So if you could remember what we've done last week, it was quite clear. How does one sentence prepares the reader for the next? So with your writing, you guide your reader to come to be, your reader is becoming aware little by little on what you're doing, what the other researchers are doing, and so on. So one sentence prepares the reader for the next new information coming in. And today, we bring that into how one methodological decision makes the next thing possible. Now, this is once again preparing your reader. So you made methodological decisions on certain grounds, and that makes possible for your reader to understand why did you make those design decisions in your methods. So my dear friends, from your free reading, I want you to bring some of your. Are there any questions regarding the reading material or what you're doing here? Are you in a puzzle what to do? Can somebody speak or type it in chat if you have any questions? I'm referring to task 1, pre-reading retrieval. Upon reading, you are yes. Thank you. Some of you are responding. Thank you, Yatmi, for starting over. All right. All right. Perfect. Thank you, Gizar. Yes, I'm grateful. Now, I invite you all to share your responses as something not sent directly to me. There is something that you share with everyone so that everyone can read. And I'm little relaxed then because I don't need to post it or read it further, right? So I'm glad that you all are making wonderful pre-reading decisions. Yetmi, can you share it to everyone, please? Gisara, thanks, you shared it with everyone. And Tilanka, can you also share it with everyone? Perfect. All right. Others, please contribute because this is your story that you're going to write, and this is me who is taking how the actual research world navigates through method section, and I'm going to show you some very valid, very authentic, and effective strategies how you can do your thing in a way that is highly what we call valid, precise, and authentic in your own way, right? So it's not my story, it's your story you're going to write. Well, All right, some of you are responding. Akila, thank you. And Mahesh, thank you. Well, Akila, you noticed, yes, all the background information that led to their decision making, but the way it is presented is a bit confusing. All right. So we'll learn from those and we'll try to renegotiate how can we do it better, right? And Yatmi says you choose P, that is process, all right. Three different possible options, methods, and evaluate them against the cost efficiency, okay. Mhm. And Ushani, thank you. Six Sigma, okay. Mhm. All right. Now, what I want you to negotiate or rather convince yourself is now in one of the articles, they are actually investigating how to better capture tunnel cracks using a capturing method, image by reading through images. In another, they are actually going to optimize uh, manufacturing process. And in the third, they are actually doing something with LLM, where LLM is given a chance to make decisions on cement production process. So three different scenarios, three different methods, and three different write-ups, right? Thank you, Dylan. All right. So your observations are very much thankfully acknowledged here, and that convinces me that you are doing behind the screen. I love to see this because if you are doing behind the screen, let me assure that you are going to find the best of the best way that you can project your research into a wider audience, right? Congratulations, you are doing it. All right, let's move on with those little pre-reading retrievals to actual activity leading to understanding. Well, now look at these two statements. The first is shorter, the second is longer, right? Don't misunderstand at the beginning. We are not teaching you the rule that longer is better. We are not teaching that, right? Sometimes the shorter could be better. Sometimes the longer could be better. We are not teaching you longer is the better, right? You can ask one question. What is it? Which additional information is methodologically necessary in your field? Now you know when you write your method, yes, you bring your own decision on methods, on selection of particular method over the other, maybe using a particular decision. You know, there is a reason for every decision you make. When you report those details for your reader to understand, a detail typically earns its place when changing or omitting of that particular detail, if it change how the reader understood the procedure. whether the very information that you are going to include is troubling the reader's understanding, or rather is it easing the reader's understanding? Is it helping the reader to evaluate your design judgments? And whether, quite simple, the amount of detail that you bring into your methods is actually what? Is a decision made by you together with your reader. You must be wondering how to take Nilan, I'm glad to read what you say. Methodology, small crack paper was clear, but it seems to be very much targeted to one particular readership. All right. All right. So what I'm navigating with you here is quite simple. Now, sentence A, statement A, seems very short and just a single thought is presented. But in the sentence B, you see some data, some decisions you made with regard to the sample analysis are little revealed. What I am teaching you is not the very simple rule that the lengthier the detail is better. I'm not telling that, right? There can be instances where the detail could be better, but short sentences could be much better. All right. Well, so when you make a decision on which detail should go where, it should be a decision that you make based on what? Based on your final judgment, whether this detail earns its place in reader's process of comprehending. If it earns something in reader's comprehension, then it should be there. And in any way, if it disturbs or blurs the reader's processing of your method, it may be omitted. Okay, there is a working question. When you read, when you write your own write-up on methods, you have to question always which additional information is methodologically necessary in your field. Now, additional information is, now one of the comments that you all have made on crack study is that, it's written for a particular audience. It's true because that particular journal is for a particular audience. For that audience, it is fitting. Now, when you're writing, you are also looking at an audience, and in your research writing, you have to look at not just one audience. First could be a supervisor, it is a different write-up, and then you'll be writing to a reviewer of a journal paper, that's a different write-up. And when you make the final, what we call screen ready draft, it is for the audience. And then you have to do the audience analysis, which we did in our early sessions. According to the audience requirements, you have to make a decision which additional information is methodologically necessary in your field. It is a decision that you can make on which I cannot advise because I am not an expert in your field. Well, so with that, let's move forward and see what we are dealing with. We'll be dealing with Wang and Tang's article, the crack article, and then manufacturing experiment by Norman and Bradley, where they test the Six Sigma strategy, and then AI material screening article by Marjoby and others. And the fourth article is just a an abstract that you can find in Mercon or rather IEEE web store of University of Moratua, right? So we'll be dealing with these four different research environments, right? We will not use them equally, but Wang and Tang's article will be one of the core articles that we'll be using, right? And with Norman and Bradley's article, we'll actually see how precision works in a field experiment. Precision has a very valid point in your methodology. And in Mojobe's article, we'll be looking at the cognitive demand. And the fourth article, which is not given as a pre-reading, you will be able to access it with the worksheets link, which is Rian Jayasena, and that will help us see how method is compressed into an abstract, right? Because you have to write the methods in the method section as well as you have to bring it in a very strong but very brief form to abstract as well. So that is to navigate all this. Well, the science underneath the task is authentic and traceable. Now remember, you are reporting your science and your methodology is all about your scientific method and its judgment, right? All right, let's move on and see what we are going to do. So we are looking at the first article. What is it? I'm taking a single, simple, one sentence extract from the article by Wang and Tan. How it is read. In this paper, a self-developed tunnel image acquisition system is used to efficiently obtain information. Now, do not quick to analyze. Ask from yourself, what do I know from this sentence? Then ask, what would I still need to know as a methods reader? Now you are reading the methodology. You see, the sentence tells us that there is a self-developed acquisition system. All right, but it does not yet give us the equipment arrangement, the imaging conditions, and the parameters they use, or the relationship between acquisition and later detection. So there's a lot yet to come. But there is, with this single sentence, the reader invites us to something. Well, so what is your first task? What do I know from this sentence? Can some of you respond me on chat? When you read this first sentence in that particular article, what do I know now? You read just one sentence. What do you know now? A self-developed tunnel image acquisition system that is used to efficiently obtain information. Come on, I want to see your chat space. All right, Rukshan, the specific technology is the, all right. I want others also to respond. Quick. What do I know? Just as Rukshan said, yes. The specific technology is clear. Yes, as Tilanka says, tunnel image acquisition, that is their technology they are using in this thing. All right, that is clear. So you see, this particular opening sentence tells your reader something. Just let me. You come into greater detail. The method tries to improve the efficiency of information gathering. And Ushani guesses that there may be a relationship between obtaining info from this specific tech. Okay. By now, what do you know is quite simply that they are using a particular method, right? Well, Mahesh, being a design researcher, must be knowing what is it all about. Why? It is something affiliated to your area, perhaps. All right. You have to ask a second question. What is it? When you read the first sentence, now keep in mind the first sentence prepares you for the next information coming in the next sentence, right? Technology, what is the kind of technology that is used? Yes, Sai Krisha. Yes, the system was designed for a tunnel environment. Yes. Hmm? Yes, as Nalika says, yeah, particular technology they are using in this paper. All right. And Akila says the technology. Hmm? Well, yes. And yes, the land capturing mechanism is ready to be known. Now, for you to understand their method, now you see, you ask questions, what else I need to know? So you ask, okay, it's a tunnel image acquisition system, okay, and they are going to efficiently obtain information. So lots of questions arise in your mind, right? So when you read it as a read of methodology, you realize that with this sentence placed at the beginning, it should be leading to the next information demanded by the reader. So, what a methods reader still needs to evaluate the method. You know, what else? What else should come there? So, this is something that you should judge when you're writing your own methodology. First, place the most efficient, easy to understand bit or rather gist of your whole method in the opening, and then eventually prepare your reader to understand what your method is, right? Did you get what I'm telling? I wish you are, right? All right. Thank you for your responses. Let's move on. Now we are going to read the source. Now you have to open the data collection span in M1, which is the crack style, right? You can read the opening and then you have to inspect the figure 1 and table 1, right? Now you have a task. What is it? You are going to decide whether the methods actually lives, or rather where the method actually lives. Is it only live in the text or prose written, or is it live in the table? Is it living in the figure, or is it living everywhere? That is the simple question. So where should you write, incorporate, connect, and create the web of your method within your prose, which is your text that you're writing, and then within the images that you're bringing in, maybe figures, and there can be tables and other statistics that you're providing into it. Where should your method live? Should it be living in the prose, the text that you're writing alone? Should it be living in the figures? Should it be living in the statistics that you provide, or should it be living all across these sections? Can I ask one question? Where does the method actually live in this paper? Is it in the prose, the text? Is it in the figure or the table, or in all three? What is the reading? Thank you, Akila. So what have you understood once you come to know that it lives in all three? The one thing, can the figure alone tell the entire story of the method? The image given at the very beginning may be a good beginning, but can it alone tell the method? No, it cannot. Can the prose alone tell? Can you put every segment of your decision on methods in words? You can, truly. But should you do that? Because in a research paper, you are struggling with space and word count. So, my dear friends, you have made now a one decision. What is it? When you write your methods, it should live where? Where should it live? Give me a quick response in chat. When you write your method, where should it live? Should it be living only in the text that you type as your prose? Or should it be living within the figure that you draw? Or in statistics? Or where? It should be running along all segments. You see? So, when you're writing your methods, carefully design what is to write as your prose, what is to take as images or figures, what other information you're going to take into the story, and make a clear connection of those things so that your method is going to be crystal clear to your audience. I'm glad that you made that decision. And that is perhaps the first and very stronger decision that you made right now. So that you need to work on figures, you need to work on statistics, tables, and graphs perhaps, together with the prose. All in all, they all together create your research methodology to the reader. Well, all right. It is actually, now we are going to name the principle. Precision should be distributed across these modes. A methods paragraph does not have to carry every specification itself, but the research record all together with the figure, with the data, with images, with prose, all together, the research record collectively must allow the reader to understand relevant methodological conditions. That is must for the reader to recover from your story. That is very different from saying every detail belongs to a prose. Just one paragraph or couple of paragraphs, just text alone can not tell. But you may see in the third article about LLM used for some decision making, it is only text, right? So there can be instances where text alone can tell the story. But there can be other instances where text alone cannot do. Now the cracked story tells us how nicely could you synthesize your methods using all possible modalities that you can use in your writing. Okay. Now look at one question that I highlighted in the bottom. In your own field, you all are coming from different fields. What details often live outside prose? Now, the text, the write-up, the words can be given. But you know, in your own field, there are details that should go on tables, diagrams, protocols, appendices, codes, instruments, and datasets. Can you think of one such detail in your own field? What details should live, or rather, typically live outside the prose? Can you send me your response in chat? First indicating your field and then what lives outside prose in your field. I'm giving you about 2 minutes. This is really interesting for me because then I know the diverse instances which you are working on different fields and your field has certain data, certain information that cannot actually serve in the text. It should be served in other forms. I'm sure my question is clear, right? I'm waiting for your responses. So you understand, as the first point of today, everything cannot be told in text or prose. There needs lots of other modalities. Thank you for those who have starting to send me. Yes, Sri Lanka. Thank you. Well, thank you, Akila, and thank you, Shani. Yes, Yadmi. Yes. Images from the industry, yes. Then only they know. So, for example, a traditional, what we call sewing machine, or rather, I don't know what you call it, right? Now, Nilan brings the point, yes. Geostatic, yeah, coding data set, figures, all right, okay. Now you realize that there are other modalities that exist which cannot actually be proven or rather convinced through text alone, right? Yes, there are instances, as Akira says, where you need to bring an appendix with which you say what other data you require to understand it, right? Yes. So, for example, now in this particular study, the crack detection, you see the nozzle of the very device that they are going to use. You know, they have flashes, they have cameras, and they are, you know, kept around one what we call circular. You know, it is made for tunnel, so that you need to capture all 360 degrees of the tunnel to see. You see that particular image tells a bigger story than what the text can do, right? But I'm trying to put that in a text right now. But other, you know, it's a very hectic effort that I'm making to put that into words. But that figure that is posed in the very onset of the method section tells a big story. You see? So, my dear friends, thank you for your responses. You understand that these modalities are a must in your what? Method section, and you should tell your story in segments. You have to make the decision, what should I tell in the figure, what should I tell in the text, what should I tell in the image, and so on. That is a decision that you should make by looking at how your field functions. Well, what I revealed here is a method paragraph does not have to carry every specification itself, but the research record collectively must allow the relevant methodological conditions to be recovered. So once you're done with the entire methodology with figures, data, prose, and everything, they all together should be able to reveal your reader, oh my God, this is what he had done, and he did this method because it has this particular reason. So your message should be recovered fully by your reader using all these modalities. Thank you. Well, now we move to the metro tunnel properties section. We are not reading for every technical detail, right? We are tracing how observation becomes an operational definition. Look for image conditions. Look at their labeling, and then the crack area ratio, the pattern reported by the authors, and the decision to treat cracks. And they are all small targets. Now you see, your worksheet will guide you to do this task. When you read from one section to the other, you eventually navigate through the method. Methods, starting from metro tunnel crack properties, the image conditions, you are now reading to operational decisions that they take. And cracks are taken as small targets, but their precision is disturbed later. You come to know how certain disturbances distort the images taken, you see. So image size, how they are labeling it, and the crack and area ratio, and how certain threshold pattern, and how it is not about just taking pictures. Taking pictures has obstacles, and amid those obstacles where a physical human eye cannot reach, you have to take these pictures, and by looking at these pictures within the given circumstances or other disturbances, you have to make a judgment. And in making your decision, you have to do some fine tunings, clearances, you see. The writer is actually guiding you through each section of the methods, how he overcame one after the other, and how he finally determined on what and how to do it. Trace what calculation makes the next methodological decision possible. Now, one thing is made possible with the action takes next, and then there were several actions taken together with conditions, and then move to the next. See, carefully observe how it is moving. I'm sure that you are using the worksheet so that you know what you're supposed to do. So you're going to read the metro tunnel to crack properties section, reconstruct the reasoning chain in your own words. So image phenomenon, how will you reconstruct it? Measurement or labeling action, how will you reconstruct it? I'm sure that you are not an expert in that field, but how you reconstruct the meaning, what is required? Calculated property, how the calculations were done, and how the operational and methodological decisions are made, what that decision enables next. And for you, which connection in this chain would be hardest to defend if one methodological detail disappeared? Now imagine one of the segments of those methodological decisions are taken away, or rather omitted, because you are given a limited word limit. So you are going to reduce some of your method sections detail. So which detail, which figure, once you remove one of those, how will it be making difficult for your reader to understand? So make these judgments by yourself. So my dear friends, what you are navigating right now is looking at how one who have got a publishing space in a journal have done it. And you are the next competitor. Once you're done with your research, you have to compete for this space, right? Because for us Sri Lankans, the huge subscription charge, or rather the article processing fee, is a big deal. If we can make our paper worth publishing in a journal where what we call journal processing charge is zero, it is highly competitive. For you to reach such a journal, you should be writing it in such a precise way. That's why I'm working on all this. I want a thumbs up if you are done with your work in the worksheet, or rather, if you have made the decision, give me the thumbs up so that we can move forward. Look at the crack article on which you'll see that without certain thing, what is, without, out of the given data in that particular paper, imagine a particular element is going to be taken away, omitted. What is, if you just look at the method section, can you keep any of the elements that the writer brought into write the methodology section? Can we omit any of those? And what is the hardest thing to omit in that particular article? Imagine that you are given the decision to reduce number of figures or other statistics. What is the hardest thing for you to remove from there? What is important here is what judgments that you take upon reading that article, which may turn up as a lesson for your write-up in the methodology. That is the most important thing. Shall we move? Shall we move? All right, we'll be moving. Now, in your worksheet, complete this chain. The important point is not simply the authors describe cracks. The important point is that a calculation and classification make the next methodological choice reasonable, isn't it? A methodological decision is often intelligible only under what conditions? Only in relation to the decisions it makes possible next. So it's a chain process. It's a scaffolding process. It's a step-by-step process where you take your reader along how you did it. Right? Well, so you are reading the section I'm guiding you. Anchor-based and anchor-free approaches. The question is not whether you know every algorithm. Ask whether YOLOX X was used would be enough. And you may see that in this paper, the choice is linked to crack morphology, alternatives, comparative performance, and the priority placed on detection accuracy. You see, all these are actually method choice presented as an argument. Are you visualizing? Are you visualizing it? It's a chain of choices that the writer made as his methodological choice, and he write it as an argument. Are you with me, guys? Are you with me or are you elsewhere? Yep, some of you confirm me that you're with me. That's my pleasure. Now remember, when you make a procedure and when you provide the justification for that procedure, remember they are two different things, right? Procedure is one thing and your justification is another. Procedures tell us what was done. Justification tells us why that was a defensible choice. So, when you make a methodological decision or choice, your choice should be auditable. To make it auditable, you have to justify it. I wish you are getting me. A methodological choice becomes auditable when the reader can recover not only what was chosen, but also why the choice was defensible. You see? So your methodological decision with justification with the procedure is provided as an audit trail for your reader to check whether you have made the right decision. And that is what obviously the reviewer does when your paper is taken for selection or deselection in the decision of the journal, right? So you should provide in your methods a trail to audit for them whether you have done a right decision, whether you have depended your choice in this method. So a methodological choice becomes auditable when the reader can recover not only what was chosen, but why the choice was taken. So if it is defensible, you are, you are doing your job to your best. Now, I'm just inviting you to look at in your own methods extract, right? And when you look at those methods extract, you can now question where the reader may need reason for a particular choice you made, right? So before you draft your prose, image, and all that, and while you're drafting all that, that's why I often say none of these sections could be drafted overnight in one sitting, right? You draft one thing and you question, and then you review, and you redraft it and fine tune it. That's why you all are considered full-time researchers, right? All right, all right. I wish you got my message. Did you? Did you, my dear friends? Did you get the message? The key idea that I'm highlighting here? Give me an emotion response. Yes, at least a thumbs up. Apply this little knowledge into your own decision on your own methods draft. See whether there is a point where you need to give more justification for a choice you made. So this is how and what we are learning. Well, here we go. Here are several facts from the experimental setup. Do not simply admire the precision, sort them. Which are dataset conditions, which are experimental conditions, which are validation decisions. Quite simple. Look at how many images, on what conditions, what software is used, the batch size. You see, lots of data are coming. This is how a methods reader begins to judge the reliability and scope of what follows. So, you tell your reader the whole story. Reader could be a reviewer who knows much better than you, perhaps, because he reads maybe a couple of articles every day. which are published just now, right? So this, you know, get all these conditions to help validating your methods decisions. Quite simple, but at the same time, not as simple as you think. Well, while you're looking at M synthesis, the crack synthesis, what you're going to do. The method becomes visible as a chain of decisions, not as a list of actions. You see, acquire, define, construct, compare, select, optimize, and validate. This is more than a list of actions. It's a decision chain. Ask which errors become weak if one methodological detail disappears. Now, take about 2 minutes and write in one sentence in your methodology section by reading the crack article, what lesson did you learn? Right? I'll stop speaking here for 1 minute and giving you time to think of it and post on chat what decision you have taken, what lesson you learned upon reading crack one example analysis of methodology to get into your own methodology right now. Take 1 minute and draft it and send it for me to read, for everyone to read, please. Thank you for those who have started responding. Well, would you mind, Nilan, if I invite you to put this in your own words, please? That's interesting to read. That's why I am inviting you to. Not now, I'll be giving you a chance. Be ready to articulate what you learned here, please. Thank you, Mihiri, Mahesh, Nilan, Akila, and Tilankar. Now you see, these questions should be answered in your method section. What questions? Why such a decision is made? On what basis? And why didn't you choose another in place of what you choose? So what I told earlier is you and your reader are actually in a sort of a win-win situation where you negotiate on what? The decisions you made by providing them with a valid audit trail to decide that you have done your job to the best of its what you call optimal conditions which you could do it. So my dear friends, your method section in either of your dissertation or in your research paper or maybe in other places, you should justify it with all this. Can I now invite Nilan to share your views, please?
Yes, sir. Hope I'm audible.
Yes,
Right.
please go
So
ahead.
actually, this work more related to my geospatialism analysis as well. So some of the analysis actually we are doing with a lot of background works, but none of this work will not give kind of sense when we are reading our methodology section because it's more get complex if you are putting all the things. So we have to be more selective to put whatever things we want to add with the credibility. So I learned that from this channel study. So, and I have also practiced this into some extent.
Perfect. And you don't think that reading the crack article is not a waste time, right? Did you waste
No,
your
no,
time
sir.
reading it?
No, actually, it's a big
Thank
learning
you.
for me as well.
Thank you, Nila. And can I invite Mahesh to put your idea into voice?
Thanks. I think for me, to see all these different evidence comes together like a systematical way, interdependent from each. So it's like a systematical approach of giving more evidence to validate the point we are going to make is something like, because we used to write a lot of narrative, like prose section without too much of uh, tables and sometimes with these kind of extra elements. So we used to write a lot like longer way, and so it's extend a lot of things. Now in this approach, I realized how we can combine certain data into one data set and to make that validation and take that point. Yeah, it's more like synthesizing the methodology. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mahesh. And any lady that I know that there are smart ladies here who might love to share their understanding of this half of the lecture. Please articulate your voice. I'm not going to name any of you because none of you have responded me to this question yet. Nadisha, are you there? Those who are leaving now from the class, I feel sorry for them because there is a lot to navigate. Don't feel embarrassed when you are invited to speak what you learned, right? It's quite simple. People understand things in their own ways, and sharing of how and what you understood actually makes a sense for the other. Don't worry, we are not going to make the perfect decision overnight, but I'm sure that, sharing all those things do help us learn as, as members of a learning community. Thank you. Let's move on and see what else we are going to see further. Well, now we are coming to a different extract. What is it? This is from Norman and Bradley's article. If your framework is about research communication, it must work in a field experiment as well. Look at this sentence about duration. The baseline period and each of the interventions were implemented in a 3-month period, each totaling 9 months. Why does 3 months matter scientifically rather than stylistically? Can you guess? Now, this is the study on supply chain, or rather the Six Sigma. Yes. So let me read the setting. Operating HMLV manufacturing plants in Wisconsin, 8,500 part numbers annually. Yeah. Small batch quantities, but many parts. Look at the metrics. Variables and calculations that make performance measures. Why do you think 3 months matter? Is it just a scientific or simply an stylistic significance? What do you think? Yeah, it matters scientifically, as Ushani and Tilanka agreed. What about the others? Is it stylistic or scientific? Yeah, true. When this particular detail is revealed, actually it helps the reader understand the intervention condition. How much intervention is made along what frame of time, and the basis on which the performance is compared. Now you see, the performance is compared on this basis. You see? So this is a different method section. So we are going to navigate another lesson from this particular article. Let's move on. Now try and classify each of these details. The context, Wisconsin, USA, operating HLMV plant, 8,500 parts annually, but average batch quantity is around 40 and 3 months period, and defined performance metrics. Does it mainly support reproduction, or does it establish context for interpretation and transfer? Or rather, does it do both? Your answer may differ, it's all right. Please answer whether it is just, support reproduction. If you feel like, these details support reproduction, you may type R, or rather it establishes context and transferability into other contexts. You might say C, and if it actually does both, you might type B. Respond your view on chat, please. I'm sure you're clear what I am expecting from you. If you classify all these details, do they simply support reproduction, or does it establish the context and transfer, or is it doing both? That's my question. You can respond either R, C, or B. If it is reproduction alone, you might type R. There is no perfect or rather correct answer here, but I want to see how you view it. I received 2 answers. What about the others? 3 answers. 4. I'm grateful for all of you who are responding here, which convinces me that not only we, but also you are trying to learn something out of this time that you invest here. All right. Now, one thing that we all need to understand is in postgraduate research writing, particularly for your dissertations and for journals, the explanation for the classification is often more important than labeling them, right? Simple labeling cannot do. The explanation for the classification is important. So do not simply label them, explain them so that they know. All right, let's move on. Now I'm inviting you to open the metrics section and table 2. Now here in this article, manufacturing perform becomes measurable research evidence. Now, one thing that we need to know is a methods section often actually translates an intellectual research question into operations that can later produce data. You see? If the variable definition disappears, the reader may not know how to interpret the result. So, it should be actually a clearance that you give to your reader from concept to measurable evidence. When you convey the whole arena of concepts to evidence, there has to be clear what? Interpretation. And to reach the interpretation, you need clear background and context. All right. Leading from concept, then showing the variability, and then revealing the measurements and calculations, and then you'll be writing then the results. When you move to the results section, these method section revelations are going to help you connect your story in a way that reader can easily understand. Because as I said to you, one sentence connects your reader ready to the next idea. And at the same time, one section ensures that your reader is ready to digest the next section. So method section prepares you, or rather you prepare your reader in the method section to digest and read and comprehend the results section. So they are not isolated splits or chunks of research that you put here and there and just make the final write-up. All right, my dear friends, let's move on. Now we are going to do a bit of a comparison between the crack article and here the Six Sigma article, right? All right. In crack article, actually the precision is carried by hardware, its images, data sets, software, and validation. Now here in the Six Sigma thing, precision depends on the setting and the duration in which the intervention is done, and production context, and further metrics. Now remember, the reader does not need the same kind of detail in every method section. Now, if you take the two articles side by side, you'll see that some of the images taken in crack article supported its story, whereas the other description brought in this manufacturing field experiment supports its story. So, precision is something disciplinary sensitive. So, it depends on the discipline that you are writing your research on. The reader does not always need the same kind of detail in every method section. So I cannot prescribe this is the method, either the crack article as the ideal or rather the Six Sigma article as the ideal. So you should negotiate in your own discipline what is sensitive to your own field. That is the lesson we are going to learn from this second article, contrast with the first one, right? It is a discipline sensitive thing. Reader needs a unique, peculiar detail relevant to the study and the context and the discipline it involves in. I wish you got and you understood it. Can you confirm me whether you have got it or not by simply sending me a response, maybe in the form of a thumbs up? Thanks. Thanks. All right, let's move on. So with that, yes, we are going to take a break. I think it's a good time for us to have a break. It is exactly 1.5 hours, right? We'll take a 10 minutes break. After the break, we will try a harder task. So get ready. The science will become more complex and we will see whether the same communication questions still help us recover the method. So friends, take your break, just 10 minutes, and have your snacks quickly and get ready for the hardest part of the day. Enjoy your time. Hello, friends. I'm back. What about you? Are you all back? All right. So we'll go ahead and navigate what else we are thinking of learning today. Now we are moving into a brand new article. This is the article by Marjobi and others, right? This is about communications materials. Well, this is a more demanding computational study. Here, you are not actually tested on machine learning. You're being asked whether you can recover a methodological argument from technically unfamiliar research. Now, you see, look at this extract. For fine-tuning, we manually created a ground truth data set from 200 randomly selected tables. Now remember, this sentence about ground truth is not just a decorative term. It tells something. What is it? It tells us that the authors needed a way to evaluate and fine-tune the extraction process. So, let's begin the task. Now, I'm inviting you to use the table extraction of chemical composition section. Here I have given you the starting point and the outcome. What is the start point? 5.7 million papers. What is the outcome? Chemical composition data. Your task is actually to reconstruct the steps between them. Start and the outcome. Do not explain every technical term. Trace the decisions. This actually appears in your worksheet where in your worksheet, yes, this is task task 10. This is task 10. Use table extraction of chemical compositions. Fill only the decisions you can support from the source. Now, source is visible where if you click on this item on open source, you will see where it is. And just 2 paragraphs above the results, you see the method section of this particular article. Starting from we present data-driven machine learning method to predict the reactivity of cementitious precursors, providing insights into reactivity variables across different materials. Yeah, there where the article begins telling what methods did they follow. And I am inviting you to do the task 10 on your worksheet. Fill only the decisions you can support from the source. Now, they're talking about 5-7 million papers. What decision you can support? What happened next? So, you see, it goes certain decision points starting from 5.7 millions, keyword filtering, then into vector databases and embedding model comparison, candidate LLM approaches, ground truth data. Yep. You see? So it's a method applied in this particular study. So do the task 10 and give me a thumbs up once you're done. Fill the missing steps between starting corpus and extracted data. That is your task. And do not explain every technical term. Trace the decisions made by the authors of the paper. What happened between the starting corpus and the extracted data? Take about a couple of minutes and fill it. And once you're done, give me your response that you're done with it. Friends, are you doing the audit between the steps of the methods? I'm sure you are doing. I'm sure you are doing. Once you're done with, let me know with your thumbs up or any emotion that you might explain there. Hello, friends. I wish you had enough time to do it. Now, in this particular paper, you see that, unlike the other two papers we have seen, it doesn't bring any illustration, figure, but it brings some prose, which tells how it happened. And I'm inviting you to navigate the steps between this starting point and outcome. Now, I'm doing this purposely because this is what you are expected to manipulate in your writing of methods, because your reader should be able to detect the steps between starting point to end point, how this bugger has done it. You're doing now this trail. Are you done? Nilan, what's happening there?
Yes, sir. Still, I'm working on with this last part with the ground truth.
All right. Go ahead. Take your time. And I've received some of you have done it. All right. So the most important thing here is actually the ground, but truth. I happen to ask in my previous slide whether it is just a decorative term or is it actually a decision taken in the methodology. Ushani, if you're done, can you quickly trace me the little steps that you found maybe as a chat response? Now, what you're doing here is, my dear friends, you actually take the audit trail of that article writer's method section, deciding whether you can trace the missing steps between starting point and the outcome they produce. Great, Ushani. Mhm. All right, let's move along the slides and then you'll realize what lesson you learned there. So now use the given four categories: process, precision, justification, and validation. I'm not inviting you to label the sentences as process, precision, justification, and validation. Find one strong example of each function that you can defend from the source. This is not actually annotating or coloring exercise, but it is a recovery of the methodological reasoning. Now, there is a methodological reasoning in the paper. You are going to trace it on your own. Process is all about what had happened. Precision is about what specification matters, within what conditions. What and why justification we were talking earlier. Why that choice? And then there has to be a validation. How was adequately checked? I'm sure while you were doing it, you happened to trace through these sentences and you were navigating it through. Well, what would be lost if this method were reduced to? Imagine. Am I audible out there? Yes, it seems.
Yes.
Thank you. You see, what is the ground truth data? Well, what would be lost if the methods were reduced to? I'm sorry, it's because I typically click on the drop down menu to see whether you have responded anything on chat. Let me close it so that things will be clear. All right. Here they are. What would be lost? Imagine that, the whole description is there, but from that pros, if, if we reduced the method to simple statement like GPT 3.5 was used to extract the tables. We would lose the decision trail, aren't we? Alternatives, ground truth, comparative performance, the reason for the final choice. So remember, methodological justification makes a choice auditable rather than merely visible. Now, it's not just something that you make visible, but you make it auditable to your reader. Because in your prose, which is your research paper or whatever, what you're doing is quite simply, you prove them that out of the existing literature and all that, you choose a methodology, you happen to choose a methodology, and within the methods, you have made an easy to detect, replicate, and easy to question, but defensible method and methodological decisions to ensure that you get results out of such a process which is visible for everyone. So simple visibility is one thing, but your visibility should ensure that all the methodological justifications are auditable. So the simple point is this: you in your methodology section should leave an audit trail for your reviewer, for your reader to check whether you have taken right steps on what decisions and how and why should be answered there. Not only the visibility of what had happened, right? What would be lost, if you can imagine GPT 3.5 was used to extract the tables. If you limit it to such a limited statement, the reader is not given a chance to check whether your methods, or rather your extraction method with ChatGPT or GPT 3.5 was authentic, reliable, or auditable. Remember, your method section is actually the validating point where you convince your reader maybe reviewer, an expert, maybe a general crowd, but whoever it is, you provide them what? Your scientific method from which you gain these results and these outcomes and conclusions. That section should therefore not should simply be visible, it should be an audit trail which you allow your reader to trace each of the step, question it, and give credit, question and convince and reach and get ready for your results. All right, my dear friends. Well, understandable is not the same as the producible. A method section may be understandable without being reproducible. Now, one may be able to understand it, but they don't know how to reproduce or rather replicate it. Understandability means the reader can follow the broad logic. That is something that can be done easily through a simple prose. But reproducibility is all about, it asks a deep operational specification. It sees whether your study could be done elsewhere as well under the same conditions. They are related, right? Not identical. Keep that distinction in mind when we move to your own extract. We'll be moving into your own extract, in which you have to keep this distinction in your own mind, right? Being able to understand by the reader what you have done in the methods is one thing, but being able to trace what decision, where, then under what conditions, circumstances, on which validating grounds, that should be the audit trail that you are providing your reader with. So now I am inviting you to come to a local abstract. This is actually your exercise in yes, task 14. How much method survives in an abstract? You can click on the Open University of Morato repository, and there you will see the abstract. Rest of the articles I could extract as free open source material, but this particular material from our repository did not give me the detailed paper. But what to do? Just imagine the limitations under which we are functioning. We are not given access to Scopus or any authentic database, at least through the library. And we are not even given full access to a local article of which the abstract is available only in University of Morato repository. You see, these are pathetic circumstances which we actually need to fight for and bargain for and win. Without having direct access to these databases and research, how can we do auditable high level research? Maybe under these circumstances you are doing a lot, but imagine if you are given all these accesses, how well and how easily and how confidently will you be doing? That's a question beyond our modules teaching. Let's try and do the exercise. So what you expected? I have given a little extract. This is from the abstract. The system employs low-cost IoT devices installed 10 meters upstream of each lane to continuously monitor ambient sounds. The purpose of getting this task is not to criticize an abstract for not behaving life a full method section, right? Abstract is a place where you get just, below 250 words space to reveal every snippet of your study. So in such a place, see what a little space is given in an abstract for you to bring your methodological revelation, right? This is an authentic methods in abstract except, not a full method section extract. Now you see, when you're writing methodology, you should have a very detailed lab and what we call draft in a very detailed CR book or elsewhere, or rather in a folder. And that has to be once again sipped into a section in a journal paper. Maybe in your own dissertation, it is a chapter long, right? But when you take it or rather adapted it to a journal paper, it's going to be about 300-400 word count length with graphs and all that. And when you bring it to abstract, you see it's going to be as little as a single sentence. How can you undertake this challenge? This is perhaps much a great what we call exerting or rather much a exhausting experiment than what you actually do with your research. Let's move on and see. From the abstract, you are to recover what survives. But you cannot see the bigger section of methods in the big paper because we are not given the big paper. But just look at. Method is compressed to just one sentence here. You see? The device placement, SVM classifier, MFCCs, spectral energy features, and lane direction decision, dynamic green light timing. Oh my God. A surprising amount of method can be compressed into an abstract, but compression has actually limits. So before you write your first abstract, I'm inviting you to write the bigger, full detailed, what we call the draft of your methods, and then frame that into more traceable chapter of methods, and then make it shift or make it, you have to make it an essence description of methodology that fits to a journal paper, and then to abstract. You realize it's going to be a very big story that you're going to narrow down, extract to the limited, little, and finally take it to abstract as just one sentence long statement. You see? It's an interesting, challenging, and of course, very hectic task. But if you follow the steps of, coming from a big, what we call draft to a chapter, to a section, to an abstract, if you follow the steps, you'll certainly master how you can do it. Well, so is the abstract method incomplete as you think? Now remember, is the abstract method incomplete? Your answer actually depends on the purpose. Now here, in the abstract purpose, the reader can actually recover the system idea, key method components, and headline performance. That's enough. Because if the reader is really interested in reading it, he will go to the article and read it. But it is insufficient for replication. True, You're not going to replicate a study by looking at the abstract. You're going to read the whole paper before you replicate it, right? So the reader needs sensors, specifications, data, training conditions, model settings, and field test detail. Those are much more detail that you can incorporate in your method section of the journal article. So answer is actually depends on the purpose. Now, when you convert your big research into papers, I know that it is not the entire research that you put into one single paper. You'll be doing a couple of papers from the big research, so that you have to extract your method to fit into the purpose of the method that you write for. So for example, if it is abstract, there you can take a very little, and replicability cannot be questioned by looking at your abstract, right? For that, one reader has to move from abstract to the full paper, right? And if the reader is much more interested, he should reach the writer for appendixes, annexures, and data sets if you really think of replication. So things like abstract, one sentence long abstract statement of methods, to 300 to 400 long prose of methods section in your journal article, to about 10,000 words long method section in your dissertation, to data sets, annexures, what we call lab records, all that included big data repository that you can make available for them. So this is such a big spectrum, or rather scope of data that you bring into different, what we call audiences and different purposes in your method section. So when you're writing the method section, know the limit and the space, or rather limit and opportunity. You have to trace for both limit and opportunity given. So, adequate methodological detail is partly a genre decision. Depending on the genre, abstract is a different genre, journal article is a different genre, and a dissertation is a different genre. Precision cannot actually be judged independently of communicative purpose. Precision, if one looks for it, you cannot retain the precision all through these four genres which I stated so far. So my dear friends, you must have now identified when you write your method section, it's a mix of prose, figures, data, and lots of things. And maybe certain instances like, clear step revelation, leaving an audit trail for your reader to question any of your steps, and all that should be part of your method section. But once again, that depends highly on the genre you are trying. If it is an abstract, you cannot do all that. If it is a journal article, you can do it to some extent, but not fully. But if it is a chapter in a dissertation, you should be able to do it in fullest version of it. So, what did we learn today? We are going to apply that into your own methods section. How do you like to do it? Right now, here on the live session, or shall I quickly move through the guidance and let you do it by yourself on your own? You know the process, right? You know how to do it, and your worksheet will guide you how to do it. How do you like? Shall we do it here in class live? But we have very little time left, right? We have nearly 40 minutes left, but that is still sufficient for us. How do you like? Can you recommend me? So now open your unchanged methods extract. Read it once as if it belongs to another researcher. Remember, you are going to now wear the hat of the reader, right? Do not quickly edit it. Use the 7 lenses to diagnose. What are the 7 lenses? You look at the purpose, you look at the process, precision, justification, validation, reproducibility, and boundary. I wish you are following me. The point is to identify the dominant methodological communication problem in this particular passage. I'm not expecting you to trace to the entire methodology section, but the extract that you take. It should be methods. Friends, you did not respond me on how do you like this to be done. So now trace your own method section if you have one next to you. And ask from your script, what is the main methodological communication problem in your passage? Is it a problem in purpose? Is it a problem in process? Is it a problem in precision? Is it a problem in justification, validation, reproducibility, and boundary? Well, yes, there is a suggestion that we can do it here. I am glad that we can do it. Yes. Now, trace your own methodological extract. And within it, try to trace what is the main methodological communication problem in your message. If it hasn't got any problem, you must have written a perfect methodological exposition. But read it once again and trace from these 7 different steps where you found your defect, or rather where you find the main methodological communication problem. And try to, once you found that point where the main methodological or rather main methodological communication problem, then you can move on to find its friction. One dominant friction. Is it any of these questions? Is it clear enough in terms of its sequence? Question whether any necessary condition is not available there, or are they all present? And see whether there is any unnecessary detail that jumped into your description. And see whether any choice that you happen to make is not properly justified. Or rather, you have made the validation process invisible. If you have made it invisible, you have to bring it to the visibility, because I told you this is an audit trail. And see whether the context and boundary or the limitations are sufficiently given, and see whether it is understandable. And once you found whether it is understandable, then ask the question whether it is reproducible. I told you there can be conflicts where the method is clearly understood, but they don't know how to reproduce it because some choices and some validation processes are invisible, right? So detect your, you do not need to fix everything, right? It may be a sequence, a missing condition, unnecessary detail, any of these, right? Just in your worksheet, trace one thing. Complete the sentence given in your worksheet. What is the sentence? The main methodological communication problem is, and then find where the problem arises. Because. Take a couple of minutes and do it. And if you wish to reveal your own question or rather your own diagnosis, just send it in a direct message to me. on your chat. You're still at diagnosis stage, right? So simply diagnose where the methodological communication problem lies and see from what it is arising. And once you're done with, if you like to share it with me, send it in chat. This is the most critical point of all this because you have now navigated it through 3 papers and you are going to apply it in your own method section. This is praxis. This is a praxis. Thank you, Ujani. This is the first step of making your methods crystal clear to your reader. Yeah, you detected the friction, and you'll have to go through several cycles like that to clear it fully, right? So, if you're doing it with an LLM, either you can easily train your LLM to do this step by step, or else better you do it by yourself and get the support of the LLM to see the precision at the end of the day. I'm not advising you all to use LLM, but to use your own creative skills because your brain is, for me, much reliable than what an LLM can do because it's made for a different purpose. Your brain is made for your research and you choose it by your own choice and will. Well, I'm receiving one more response. Yes, okay, you found your context boundary. Yeah. And yet me also found where the friction arises from. Well, others please respond. Tilank also found. Mhm. Maybe there is a way that you can make it much more intelligible. Yes, and accessible, Tilanka. Well, So you are navigating through your methodological what? Friction. When you write your methodology section, you have to be very careful, because in your paper, what is mostly judged on the significance of your study is through your methods and results this section, right? So if you can substantially convince your reader with a clear audit trail of steps, and without leaving any what we call doubt, we cannot let our methodological section free of any doubts. But if we can provide the limits and justification and design decisions you took on your methods, that is the first thing that you can achieve as a success, because that gives you credit to read your results next, right? It is through your method only that the reviewer decides whether to visit your results or not. You see? So you're guiding your research for your reader to digest incrementally. Well, thank you. Thank you for those who have responded. I'm receiving one more. This is a question actually. Let me read it for you all. Do a method always need to be reproducible? Because some procedures are there related to inventive products, some hidden recipes, but yet to publish for awareness of the industry. A good question, and one of the most appealing questions. Yes. Now, when you mean, what do you mean by reproducibility? Reproducibility means you reveal the steps and your decisions. And if there is anything that you need to keep secret, you can keep it secret, but reproducibility is actually a key concern in every research. We call it replicability. If there is any research which is done by you, but it is not properly revealed for the auditors to look at its replicability, maybe you lose the chance of that journal. But you might try another journal with, whatever you need to keep hidden, you can keep that hidden, or rather you might reveal it as, they are available for audit, not at this moment. So which means rather than going in to see whether they need to see your hidden details, but you cannot leave any detail that hinders reproducibility, right? It's not like, the revealing the formula of Coca-Cola, right? It's about the process, the method, and methodical decisions you made. Good, Akila. Thank you for your response. Yes, Nilan. You see, now when you apply that, when you apply the knowledge we were navigating through the 3 articles are now applied into your own method section. Now you see, it's making much more sensible, isn't it? How sensible is it now? Now, perhaps this is the first time that you read an article to see the methodological, what we call, flow of a paper. Now you have read 3 papers, actually 4 papers, to trace how to write your methodology. And we've done a bit of research here in the classroom with this worksheet and all that. Tell me in one sentence, how do you feel, and how much this little exercise happened to impact on your perception of writing methodology right now? I'm sure that you had a different perception at the beginning before you do read these 3 articles and analyze them with me in this session. If there is any change made into your methodological decision making and writing decision making, let me know. And if there isn't anything, it's all right, because even before I reveal all these things, and even before our trial here, you were known to it, which means you are super duper smart. Well, let me hear from you all. How have you changed your methodological writing decision before the session and reading, and after now applying it and simply giving a bit of a test of it to your little extract that you took to the class today? Give me a simple response to it. Maybe you can use 3 to 4 words to explain how you felt it. Bit of a reflective task. We need to move along this task. Thank you, Akhila. All right, Ushani, I'm glad that you changed your view. Yes, Akhila, if you do so, I'm sure that you will be able to give birth to a crystal clear methodology section, right? And once again, it needs to be fit into abstract. When it is written in the abstract, it needs to be fitting within your journal article when it is the genre. And yeah, great. Yeah, Yatni? Yeah, it's something bigger than, sequencing the steps. Yes, it is. Thank you, Tilanka, for your comments. Yes. Now, there is what we actually do need. Now, it is very rare that you look at, you might be determined and motivated to look at how someone else have written the method spread chapter. But, without having these lenses, how can you actually detect it? I think we've done a meaningful job in this morning, right? Thank you, Mahesh. You see, your duty as a research communicator is now redefining, and you're becoming more and more communicative in your process of research communication. I'm glad to notice that. I know the number is four times the attendees here in class, but I know some of you are referring it on the recording, and I see that more than 40, half of the class is actually completing your submissions, right? Do not please ask at the end of the day, at the end of the session delivery, do not ask, how can I do the makeup sessions? How can I do the makeup submissions? Because this is not an end program assessment. We are incrementally developing our writing, research communication identity from scratch to a fine-tuned version. So those who are here do know how we are moving incrementally, step by step, right? All right. Thank you. And now, having recognized the friction find, we are going to do a bit of change to your extract. What is it? We are going to make a one meaningful methodological intervention, right? Not all methodological interventions, but just one, right? Add or specify a necessary condition. If it is condition missing, just add or specify. Perhaps you might delete an irrelevant detail. right? Or rather, you might reorder the operational sequence, right? Maybe you define or reconnect a term, right? You may go on a defining something or connect a term. Maybe you justify a little more on a particular choice you made, right? Maybe you signpost on validation process. You see, do not line edit the whole paragraph. We are looking for one consequential methodological decision, right? So now out of the trail that you had on your own methodological extract and upon auditing it through these lenses, just tell me one meaningful methodological intervention that you can make into your study. Now, diagnosing the friction point is one thing. Addressing or harnessing the diagnosed communication problem is the biggest thing, right? What will you change and what must you protect? So you can report it in this little reflective sentences. So you revealed your rationale. You changed a decision. Now, out of these two sentences, the second sentence is more important than the first. Research communication is not only about, it's not only about changing things. It is about knowing what should not change because the method or the science requires it, Every time when someone invites you to change, you do not need to change it because the science behind your method should not be deleted or altered. What you have to do is, right, making sure that it is visible and digestible. Yes, Tilanka, you made a decision. Yes, you decided what you're going to preserve and what you're going to change. All right, all right. Thank you. And friends, can I hear from you? What you retain is also important. What you change is also important because you are going to make a very strong, rational, methodological decision. Now remember, this rationale becomes evidence for your portfolio artifact 8. What is your artifact 8? Actually, there wasn't a seventh artifact. Artifact 7 was the refined version of what you submitted for artifact 6, right? If you have just submitted artifact 6 before we do 7 session, you can submit the refined, I haven't created any window for you to submit artifact 7. In the artifact 6 submission, you can send your fine-tuned artifact after the 7th session. And today, I want you to submit your refined methodological judgment. It's not today. You can take time and refine it through these lenses and send it as an artifact in your portfolio. Now you see, your portfolio is going to be an evidence map of how you evolved from just a scratch of revealing your research into a STEM researcher from another field to making it more and more scientific communication. Remember, this trajectory is what we call the principle of our assessment. I cannot trace a trajectory, someone who turns up in the last session to the classroom and who completes the rest of the sessions without revealing, without going through the recording. So for those friends who are dodging the class and dodging particularly the submissions, tell them. And those who watch the recording will come to know. I want to trace how you have evolved over time to be a research communicator. That is what I am assessing. And I have started reading your first submission, and I have responded to 10 or less of you on what you have to do, right? I'll be responding to them as time permits, right? Well, so this reflection is really, really important because that should come in your uh, artifact for the session 8, which is the portfolio submission. And once you done your revised extract, once you're done with your revision to your methodological extract, I want you to find a reader, right? And from the class itself, right? Your reader is not a proofreader. He's not looking at the grammar or spelling or terminology. What he'll be doing, he'll be actually giving you a response on how well he recovered the method. Answer only 3 questions. What are they? What I think the researcher did is one methodological decision whose purpose I can understand is one thing I would still need in order to evaluate or reproduce this procedure is. So these 3 responses should be given by a friend of you. That should come with your artifact because you must have given it to someone else and you must have obtained it on your writing from someone else, right? Because this peer response is a must. There where you learn, right? You think, you read and you write and you think it's perfect. But when you produce it to someone else, then only you realize, oh my God, perfection is missing here and there. So do that peer response. That is a must. That should come with your revision, right? You should be submitting the original extract and then the revised extract. Then there should be a reflection as well as this peer response evidence, right? All right, that is simply revealing the procedure of artifact 8 submission. And your portfolio artifact 8 is a methods decision and reproducibility audit. What you have to do is submit one coherent artifact, not the entire worksheet, right? Now, from session 6, I told you not to submit the entire worksheet. I want you to submit the last episode of it, your extract. Include the research context, original extract, and then the diagnosis, revised extract, reproducibility check, read evidence, and decision commentary together with verification note. Those are the things that should come in your portfolio submission, not the whole worksheet, right? Portfolio directions, I'll be evaluating all of them in my human eye with my brain and eye involved, right? So that is what your artifact should be, right? Your 100 and 130 words lengthy commentary, which is about, commentary on how you did it and, what you learned from it. Guidance for that is also given in the worksheet. Those are the things that you submit there in your artifact. Well, before we move away from methods section today, can you write this sentence? Complete this sentence. A method section becomes trustworthy to a reader when and when. Next session, we move to results and the language of data, right? A method creates the conditions under which results can exist. We ask how these results should become data communication. Today, we look at how methods communication happens, and in this Thursday night, we'll be doing how results and data communication, or rather results and discussion, come in handy. Please complete this sentence and send it in chat. You can first complete it in your worksheet and then paste it to chat. Methods typically create conditions and then results become visible. And there you will see the table and figures bring evidence. And those captions of tables and figures guide your reader. And that's how we are moving on. I think while you're doing your research, I'm simply clearing your research writing, research communication pathway. That is what I'm doing. And quickly complete the methods section sentence, fill it and send it here. I'm glad to read them. And I'm receiving some of them. Yes, thank you, Tilanka. Glad Akila sent it to everyone. Yes. Keep posting on it. And in the meantime, I want to hear from any of you ladies and any of you gentlemen and any of you volunteers. I want to hear 3 voices. How do you feel about the pedagogy that I am planning? Pedagogy in the sense, the way I am dealing with authentic research now up to chapter 7 or rather module 7, session 7, we actually looked at fictional data, but now we are looking at authentic research and we are getting them involved in our discussions as authentic evidences. And I, with the help of some of the LLMs, do plan this pedagogy, and I want your response on how you feel and how you digest and how these efforts make make you feel. So I want 3 reflections, one from a lady, one from a gentleman, and one from a real enthusiast, right? Well, I want it in voice, not in chat, because in chat you'll be sending this sentence response. So those who is ready can reveal it, and this is the source based I used. And from my end, thank you for working with me. And thank you for reading those extracts that I provided, because I know that it was not a waste of your time reading and doing this session together with me, where you traced when, where, and how you can navigate your method section writing, right? So shall I invite you gentlemen, lady, and an enthusiast to speak right now? Because we have only 5 minutes left. Let me stop sharing and inviting you to speak your actual reflection on what we are. Yes, Gizara. All right, Gizara, but ensure that you trace the recordings and do it with your worksheet completion, and do ensure that you submit your artifacts, right? All right, my dear friends, I'm eagerly waiting to listen to your experience of the way that I'm delivering, and the lessons are planned. And of course, I don't know whether I am wasting your time inviting you to read this paper, read that paper, and get insights from this. And I don't know whether I'm doing any silly exercises here in the classroom, which wastes your time. That's the kind of response I want from you. With that, I can actually plan the rest of the 6 sessions ahead. Please be kind enough to reveal me how you feel it. We would invite a lady first. I'm not going to name any of you. Just take your chance and speak as you feel it. කියන්න ළමින්ට මුකුත් කියන්න නැද්ද අපිත් එක්ක?
Since there's no female voice, sir, like, I just want to break the silence, and just to, like, thank you, because this, I feel this is like a real online learning. We have, like, doing this online sort of learning over the years, but we just call, like, this, taking this Zoom call or something as online learning. But here, one thing I found interesting is, like, it's really like a proper online teaching thing, where you especially, like, I know the importance of the worksheets also, like, sometimes I also have to use some of these things in different occasion in my profession, but I think working through the worksheet and get into the result as, like, the process, I think these kind of things are quite, like, interesting, and to be honest, like, refreshing when I compare, like, other type of courses I have followed online. So these are more like, the lecturer is just delivering the lecture throughout that whole time, and then we go back and do our work. But here we are doing a lot of work. And one suggestion is, like, for example, when you ask us to get like a peer review, like comments, unfortunately, since we are not known each other as in a personal level, at least for me, so I feel like it's sometimes tough to find a person, and sometimes that person may already got, like, several requests from people to review it. So when you propose the pair activity, I really appreciate if you can, like, I know it's not like, we can go to the separate rooms now, but at least if we can find a way, then I know, okay, I need to reach out to that person. So that will make easier, and one person will not get a lot of requests, and some people, like, will find the right partner. So I thought that's a little important from my end. So, but overall, I really appreciate this. Is really a great experience, to be honest. It's true.
Thank you, Mahesh. Yeah, that's enlightening, because I know that, when it comes to peer review and, pair work, that makes things much more easy and, real time. Yeah, I'll give my attention to that on this Thursday session, because I typically get you involved in breakout activities during the night programs, because that's the time where I want you all to be relaxed and engaged, and, move switched to here and there to pair activities and group and all. Well, that's a good insight I received. Thank you, Mahesh. Can I hear from one more, please? That will be great.
This is Akila here. I think in this program, one of the best things is or the strongest in terms of pedagogical approach is the worksheets, how they are structured. And it's very easy, even if you miss one session, and with the recording, you can actually follow it and do the work on your own. So that is one of the strong things that I have noticed, and I appreciate it. And one other thing, I think, this might not be a problem that can be generalized, because my background is from more like a life sciences background, and so I'm actually one of the first medical PhDs from Moratuwa. And so what I found difficult, when it comes to today's exercise, was since the 3 or the 4 research papers that you have picked out, what I found was they were very advanced engineering sort of like research. And what I faced was that since I don't have that background, it was a little bit tough for me to make certain evaluations when it comes to those 3 papers. So just wanted to share that. So I know it's my burden to bear, but it's so I found it a little bit difficult when you selected those papers. Thank you.
Thank you, Akila. And that's also very much nurturing me, because I should know then the variety that I should accommodate in my classroom. Thank you, Akila. I'll certainly be keeping on track on what you brought. I'll certainly be taking evidences from life sciences and from those areas as well when I take authentic examples. Thank you, Akila, once again.
I'm Ushani here.
Yes, Ushani.
I previously commented on the worksheets. That's a really brilliant and good idea. To be honest, initially I thought this kind of a course that polishing the language and all, just to read out the course topic. But now it's kind of a sense to me that I'm engaging with another research work for like how to produce a good journal paper rather than our own research, on postgraduate research. So that kind of a new experience to me, and I think it will productively evaluate my own writing with my own lenses currently. Yeah, that's my response.
Thank you, Ushani. And you filled the great vacuum of a woman speaking here. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for all the supports and responses and interactivity that you keep continued so far. And I'm most grateful for all of you for having faith on me that I am able to, having a faith that this little fellow can help us navigating through our research journey is the biggest thing that I appreciate. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to see you this Thursday night. Good luck, ladies and gentlemen. Have your weekend free of all this trouble further. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.